Hello, everybody. My name is John Clauser, and welcome to my little music corner of the world. So, I'm going to try to start doing some programming, just talking about some bands I like, and just bringing it into my own little corner of the world, as it were. So, hopefully, this will be a fun watch. This is a band that I have loved for 37 years. 1985. Yeah, 1985 was when I was first introduced to this band. It was on a January winter night. Me and my friends Mike and Dave, we were supposed to go see Iron Maiden and Twisted Sister up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And unfortunately, yeah, that didn't work out. Most of the Maiden crew came down with the flu, or they are sick, and so unfortunately, the show was postponed. A couple shows from Radio City Music Hall were also postponed. So there was like four shows that were postponed. So anyway, but the three of us still decided to get together, and we decided to hang out for the weekend. And so one of the things we did was we went to the mall, and so uh, we each got something different that day. My friend Mike got Twisted Sister's first album, Under the Blade. Dave got You Can't Stop Rock and Roll, and I wish I had the cassette, my original cassette, but unfortunately I don't any longer. But the band that I would wind up getting was W.A.S.P. Dave turned me on to him. He said, "You know, I've been reading about this band W.A.S.P. and I think you might like them." I'm like, "Okay, I'm in. Let's go. Let's do this." We'd never heard the Under the Blade or You Can't Stop Rock and Roll albums. We were only really familiar with Stay Hungry as far as Twisted Sister goes. So I thought, well, I'll let them get it. I'll borrow the tapes eventually, and I'll just dub a copy for myself at some point. But when it came to W.A.S.P., then I was like, well, hey, this is something totally new and different. So looking forward to this. So we each listened to every album, and then it came time to put this on. And as soon as that, I was already hooked. Didn't take much. I was already hooked. So what I'm going to do is basically this is going to be kind of a how I reach for these albums and what I like about them and stuff like that. So basically what I'm going to do here is um so I'm going to just kind of go over their discography, studio albums with the exception of one live album I'll mention about. But this basically be the order and how I kind of reach for them. Really, there is not a bad album in this bunch. I love pretty much all of these albums equally. Um, there's a couple that I'm not really into, but I'll kind of get into that as I go along. So the album that I probably would say I reach for the least um, would be the this 1999 album, Eldorado. While it's a good album, it's Wasp trying to kind of throw back to their early sound a little bit, maybe even lyrically kind of go that direction a little bit. Um, but songs like Damnation Angels is really good. I like that one. Hell Dorado is really good. But there's a lot of songs on here that I'm not overly crazy about. I'm not really a big fan of Don't Cry Just Suck or Dirty Balls. The kind of the sexist stuff. I guess I kind of lost my taste for a lot of that kind of stuff because I felt like, Blackie just went into a totally different direction after Electric Circus, but I'm getting ahead of myself with that. But anyway, still a decent album. Debate on whether or not Chris Holmes actually does play on this. I think he does tend to do some solos and stuff on this. Still not a bad album, but probably the one I reached to the least. The next two I'm going to tie together because really you need to listen to these albums together. and that would be, I'm going to try and do this where you can see it better. W.A.S.P, the Neon Gods, parts 1, the rise, part 2, the demise. Part 1 has a lot of short tracks, a lot of little musical interludes. Still strong album. Part 2, the demise, has a lot more realized songs, not so much the um, musical interludes. So this one has there's a lot of good songs. Sister Sadie's really good. Asylum Number 9 is another good one. Ecstasy Riders, Me and the Devil, a lot of strong songs. On the demise, Never Say Die is really good. Come Back to Black is another good one. The Last Redemption ends off the album. Very strong. Basically tells a concept story. Um, kind of a kind of a a hero worship kind of an idea. So very deep story though, but a good set, but ones that you really should listen to together, in my opinion. Next up are 3 albums that I am still really trying to really acquaint myself with. And I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. One of which, Holy Terror, Unholy Terror. This is a really good album. I really like this. This is kind of Blackie's kind of issues album, I guess you could kind of say. Let It Roar, Hate to Love Me, uh, sorry, Nevermore, Ravenheart. A lot of still a lot of good songs on this album. Charisma, great song, great track. Love that one especially. Next up is 2007's Dominator. Again, very strong album. There are a lot of great songs on this. I love Heaven's Hung in Black. Great epic track. Mercy is a great tune. Take Me Up is another good one. Long, Long Way to Go. I mean, again, very strong album. Next up would be Dying for the World. This would be like a kind of another Issues album that as I've heard people say. Shadow Man, even though it sounds a little like God of Thunder, great song. Blackbone Torso, My Wicked Heart, Hallowed Ground, great track, tribute to the 9/11 tragedy. Trail of Tears, Stone Cold Killers, Revengeance, another great track there. Lots of strong songs. It's a shame that there's a lot of songs on these albums that people just overlook because they want to hear so much of the early stuff. So then that brings me to why I'm not so acquainted with those albums, and that would be this album, KFD. This was a very dark time in my life when this album came out. I really spiraled down a very just a lot of depression. It was basically a self-imposed depression, basically, but this was the soundtrack to it, and it really hurt a lot of people in my life. But anyway, I don't want to go into that. But Take the Addiction, My Tortured Eyes, probably are still the tracks I really run to. I love the grooves and the feel of those. My Tortured Eyes, especially. Kill Your Pretty Face is a very much a Doors The End like song. Just has this just really crazy crescendo feel, and when Blackie does this banshee wail of when he sings the title of the song, I mean, it's just, I tried to do that back in the day and about scared somebody to death doing it. But anyway, You and The Horror, also very strong tracks, but again, just it took me a long time to come back to this album. Very long time. And this was the album that brought me back to the band. I had taken a hiatus from the band for almost 12 years. And Babylon was the album that brought me back. Um, I love the song Crazy, Live to Die Another Day, Babylon's Burning, Burn, Deep Purple's Burn. They do a good version of it. I like that. Into the Fire, Thunder Red, Seas of Fire, Godless Run, and a Chuck Berry song, Promised Land, finished out this album. But um, there's a lot of biblical themes, and this really was what intrigued me. And I was very actually happy to hear about that. So Babylon would be my next up. Still Not Black Enough would come up next. I just love this album. There's the reason I'm holding up two different versions. There's a lot of versions of that came out of this album. Um, this there's a standard version that has about 10 tracks on it. There's another version like this one here has a couple of B-sides that were included. One of which is one of my favorite songs from it. It's called Skinwalker. Great track. Scared to Death. Great track. I love their version of his version of Jefferson Airplane's Somebody to Love. The very haunting ballads, Keep Holding On and Breathe, are just beautiful. The ending track, No Way Out of Here, great track. I find myself going to that song quite a bit. Another B-sides that they did from this was they do Queen's Tie Your Mother Down and Whole Lot of Rosie from AC/DC. Other versions you can find B-sides of. You can also find him doing a Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll. And he does a good version of that. I don't have that version any longer, but it is still a very strong song. Next up, I don't really reach for this one as much, but it's the history that I have with this, and that is Inside the Electric Circus. I played this to death when it came out, and I just fell in love with 9 to 5 Nasty, Restless Gypsy, I'm Alive, Uriah Heep's Easy Livin', great version of that song, Sweet Cheetah, and King of Sodom and Gomorrah, probably the songs that I really reached for the most. And of course, the title track. Great tracks. Loved this back in the day. Here again, this is another album that I don't reach for as much because a lot of the songs I tend to skip over a lot of, and that's The Last Command. But for Wild Child, Widowmaker, Blind in Texas, Cries in the Night, and probably even the title track, Last Command, is enough to keep me coming to it. I don't really care for Jack Action and Ball Crusher, Sex Drive, even Fistful of Diamonds. I don't really care for so much. Running Wild in the Streets is pretty good. The only thing I don't like about some of those songs though is it's like that Spencer Crawford Pasha sound. I don't know, didn't care for it as much. It just doesn't sound as good on the ears as it used to. But then there's this. Then there's Helpless Children. And this, when he did this, I mean, I would have killed to have seen him on this tour, and I just wasn't able to. I never got to see W.A.S.P. But I got close. But more on that in a little bit. I love this album though. Heretic, Headless Children, the title track, Thunderhead, Forever Free, probably the most played songs from this album that I love the most. Neutron Bomber's good too. If I don't ever hear The Real Me again, I'd be good with it because I've kind of got tired of that one. Same with Mean Man. Not so much a big fan of it anymore. Neutron Bomber I do like. Man Eater and Rebel and then the FDNG, still good tracks. I like a lot of the B-sides from this. Jethro Tull's Locomotive Breath sounds really good. I like Lake of Fools, and War Cry is really good. I like War Cry. And there's a song on here called For Whom the Bell Tolls, which would be recycled into a track, which on an album that I will speak on in just a little bit. My third most reached for the Golgotha album. I When I heard the title track and he sings "Jesus, I Need You Now," it just sent chills down my spine. To hear Blackie sing those words, I just love that. It's a great track. I love the solo at the end. The outro solo is just Doug Blair. Just I feel every single note of that song. Scream, Last Runaway, Shotgun, Miss You, Fallen Under, Slaves of the New World Order, Eyes of My Maker, Hero. I just love all the. I mean, I just love this album. Great sound, great. Just start from France. I just love it. I know a lot of people don't care to hear Blackie preaching. Personally, for me, I'm good with it. Yeah, I call myself a Christian, so I'm just going to admit that right now. So I call myself a Jesus follower. So for Blackie to be singing those words, just brought just I love it. I could listen to that song all day long. Um, but I go back to this first album. I still love this first album. I don't I will say this, I don't care if I never hear Animal again, I'm good. Animal, which was not on this original album, it was released as a single. Animal is just one of those songs. Yeah, it was great when I was 15, but after Headless Children came out, I just lost the attraction. Um, I got as I got older and as Blackie matured as a songwriter, it just it just changed, and it was as evidence in more of those later albums. You know, the on what's on Holy Terror and Dying for the World and Dominator, and in the Neon God albums. There's a lot of good songs on those albums. To me, it's who wants to. I just don't get people who want to hear those. You know, but with this album, yeah, I mean, I still love I Want to Be Somebody. Love Machine is great. The Flame, you gotta love that. Bad, School Days, Hellion, Sleeping in the Fire was actually the first W.A.S.P song I learned on guitar. On Your Knees, Tormentor, and The Torture Never Stops. Gotta love the B side from Animal, Show No Mercy, and of course the Rolling Stones version of Painted Black. But I just love this first album. I It doesn't matter to me if the original band ever gets back together again, um, only because I there's so many tracks from after these guys left that I want to hear in concert. Um, which brings me to probably my very favorite album by the band, and that's the Crimson Idol. And this, of course, is the re-recorded version that came out actually came out this few days ago, back in 2018, um, with a few extra added bonus songs and some musical interludes. I and for all the purists out there, then yeah, then let's stick with this one. But I just love this album. I just relate to it so much and so deeply. I was that kid who I wanted to be the rock and roll star. I was writing songs that was very much in the vein of W.A.S.P and Slayer and Metallica and Twisted Sister and that stuff. So, I wanted to do that, and I didn't get to do that because I didn't wind up pursuing that dream. But the only thing about the Crimson Isle that I'm not a part of is I don't have um the desire to have the love for my parents. I did have that. I had the love and respect for my parents, and I loved them very deeply. So that was not an issue for me personally. But Crimson Isle for me, I just love this album for people who just want to be stuck on the first couple of albums and they just want to listen to Animal all day. Please, you know, give this one a chance. 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 You know, give it a chance. If you're just wanting to be kind of stuck there, on those albums because of how it brings out the angst of you. Well, I don't know what I can tell you then, but the only live album I had picked up by them, I never got Double Live Assassins or The Sting, but I did get Live in the Raw, and I played this one to death too. Even though I'm not so much. I think Manimal is actually a better song than Animal. Um, I love that bonus track. I love the version of Sleeping in the Fire on this. I love Chris's solo, Chris Holmes' solo on here. Wild Child, of course, is always a good one for me. Um, but still a great album. And I cannot wait for Black Friday later this year when I get to finally see the band in concert. I cannot wait. I was supposed to see them on the KFD tour with Motorhead up in Philadelphia, but unfortunately, due to Chris Holmes recovering from a sudden knee surgery, the concert got canceled, and I didn't get to see it. So, they were also going to come to Bethlehem supporting Black Sabbath on the Seventh Star tour, and unfortunately, I think that whole tour got canceled. If correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that show got completely wiped out due to low ticket sales. And so I didn't even get a chance to go to that one. But anyway, I am looking forward to seeing Wasp and Armored Saint in Atlanta later this year, Black Friday weekend. I am really looking forward to it. Anyway, I would just say this to any Wasp fan, really. Please give some of these other albums a chance. You know, look at some of this other stuff and really just listen to it with open ears, and really just discover the band more for just Wild Child, I Want to Be Somebody, Animal, The Torture Never Stops, or Tormentor, or Ball Crusher, Sex Drive. Let's try to go past those songs, and let's try to really listen to them and give them a chance. They've had the same guys with them for a number of years. Mike Duda has been on bass since KFD, which was 1996, 97. Doug Blair has pretty much been with the band since about 2002. For sure since Dominator on. They've lasted longer than the original lineup. so, give these guys a chance. I can't wait to see him. I hope I get to meet Blackie. I would love to meet Blackie. I would love to thank him for what the band has meant to me. So with that, I'm going to bid you all an adieu from my little music corner of the world. I thank you for tuning in. Let me know in the comments if you take the time to watch through all this and see what you think. Let me know what you think about W.A.S.P. What are some of your favorite songs? What are some of your favorite albums? Have you even heard some of these other albums? Give them a chance. You won't be disappointed. So, from my little music corner of the world, thank you for tuning in. And have a great day, everybody. See you soon.